Hey everybody, this is Jessica, and I hope everyone's doing well in this time of staying home. I have to tell you, I was really excited when my mixed media inspired box arrived because it finally gave me something new to play with. So here we go. This is the first page I made out of using those supplies from the 2020 box. And I'm also using the Dina Wakley Media alpha masks, and I'm just pulling out the mask part of it and laying them sporadically on my page. And I'm working in the Dina Wakley Media blue journal, and that's the one with the thick watercolor pages, the jean material, and the off-white burlap. So using the cheddar gloss sprays, I'm just spraying it very randomly over all of these masks. You can see one of the masks fell off. I just put it back, and now I'm going to hold it in place as I continue to spray. And I want to get a pretty good coverage over this so that most of the page is going to be cheddar to start. A little bit in the upper corner and the bottom corner stays white, but for the most part, it ends up being cheddar. So after I'm finished spraying, I'm just going to pop all of these masks off, and I am using that, flipping them over and printing them in another journal, and then making sure to very quickly wipe off all those because the gloss spray does dry permanent, and if you don't want your stencils to remain cheddar forever, I suggest wiping them off with a baby wipe or towel or something right away. So now that I've given the gloss spray a chance to dry, I am taking a Stabilo All pencil in black, and I'm just tracing all of the letters. Now, the Stabilo All is a water reactive pencil, so as I'm tracing this right now, it just looks like a regular pencil, but I am going to come in a little bit with some water so it starts to bleed and creates a very graffiti style and, inspired look. If you don't want that, you could just leave it like this and continue on with your project, but I was trying to create a very messy, grungy effect. So as you can see, now I'm coming in with my water, and I'm just putting a couple, sprays in different places. Some other areas I'm really coating with water, and then I'm going to set that aside and allow it time to bleed and dry. And you can see behind me cutting out these circles from the book paper that Stabilo All pencil has really wicked and moved in certain areas, and others it's just kind of stayed as is. So now I'm just kind of freehanding some circles out of this book paper in different sizes. I have a really large one, and then I'll cut out 3 smaller ones. And I'm just freehanding this, as you can see, but if that's something that you struggle with, you could also get some bottles or caps, old pop can, anything, and you could trace that and then cut this out if you don't want to freehand circles. I've done this enough times now that I'm just comfortable doing it, and I don't really care if they're a little bit off or wonky. Now I'm going to bring out the stencil portion of the alpha mask set. So I used the masks earlier to create those white letters, and now I'm going to use the positive part of the stencil here. And I'm going to spray with the gloss sprays in fuchsia this time. And that circle is not glued down, in case you were wondering. So I just put the paper circle underneath here and then just sprayed. And in hindsight, I probably sprayed a little too much because it bled under portions of the stencil, but I was okay with it in the end because it did lend towards that messy look I was going for. Okay, now that I've given that second layer of gloss spray a chance to dry, I'm going to begin gluing down my collage elements. So this first piece you see is actually the garbage that I cut out that big large circle from. And I thought to myself as I was throwing away my scraps, hey, I could probably recycle this and create another circle so I have the positive and the negative shapes of the circles. So it's something you can keep in mind that sometimes things you think are garbage can actually be, repurposed, as I did here. And I'm gluing all this down with the Dylusions glue stick. You could, of course, use whichever adhesive you prefer. This is just the one that I decided to use because it was nearby and it's fast. And I knew I was going to have to be moving around these circles as I made some decisions here. So I'm very carefully lining up this paper circle so that where the stencil came off of the circle lines up with where the stencil was on the actual circle, so the letters all match. And then I'm going to just continue placing down the rest of the circles that I cut earlier. And this one on the bottom I'm going to have actually going off the page somewhat. And then I also did off camera cut a tiny little circle, which I will be gluing down now. And at this point I had glue on my fingers, so as I was trying to press down that tiny circle, it didn't really want to cooperate with me. So I just had to add a little more glue and then carefully rub that down, and it did eventually start sticking. So now that I've given the glue stick a chance to dry, I'm going to come back in with my Stabilo All pencil in black, and I'm going to trace all of the circles. And I like to go in between each layer and add outlines and things because I feel like it helps push all the layers together instead of just looking like a bunch of floating elements. And so I'm going to use a wet brush now, and I'm going to activate that Stabilo All so it mimics the look of the spray around the letters. You could, of course, again, skip this step if you didn't want to have that more of a grungy look to it. And I'm just continually wetting my brush and then dragging out that Stabilo All, so some areas are really dark and some are a little more watered down. And then I realized that I forgot to do around the large circle, so I'm going to just add that right now as well. And I'm going to use my finger to smudge out some of it so that I don't have that perfect circular line. I want, again, creating that grunge look. So after that's had a chance to dry, then I come in with the Posca paint pen in white. I'm going to add a doodle border around these letters because the spray did bleed out a little bit and ruined the definition of the letters, so I'm just going to draw it in. So I'm stamping the bird stamp with archival ink because archival ink is permanent when dry. So I just stamped on a piece of scrap paper, and I only inked the bird because that's all I wanted, and now I'm spraying the gloss sprays onto my craft sheet. You could also open it and pour, but I was worried about spilling, so I just did it this way. And then I'm also adding a little bit of water from the spray bottle. And using a brush that's slightly wet, I'm going to just paint this on. And then I'm using my towel to remove the extra where I don't want it. So I put on a layer of the cheddar first, and then without cleaning my brush, I went right into the magenta, so you're going to see a little bit of orange. And then I went to magenta again, and now you're going to see that full concentration of magenta, that true pink. And then I thought that the underbelly of the bird needed a little more definition, so I just took the cap off of the fuchsia and directly from the bottle top just painted that right on and then spread it out with my brush. And then I'm going to set this aside to dry. So after it's had a chance to dry, I'm grabbing my Fiskar micro point scissors. Now mine is a black scissors, but they're orange now. They've just changed the color, but it's the same scissors. And they're really great for doing any kind of fussy cutting because of the spring-loaded handle, so it's really gentle on your hand. And so after I'm done fussy cutting that, I'm going to use the Dina Wakley Media Ultra Thick Gel, and I'm going to glue it into place. And this is kind of a go-to all-around adhesive because it works for heavyweight papers or things like buttons, metals. It works for everything. So now I'm grabbing the Tim Holtz Ideology clipping stickers, and I'm going to use two different stickers. The first one said, "And the voice is soft and sweet." And the second one says, "Remind me of the happiness." Now I didn't want to have "and" in there, so I simply used my scissors and clipped that part off. So in the end it says, "Voice is soft and sweet, remind me of the happiness," which makes me think of the song of the birds in the spring and in the early mornings, which I really love. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that I inspired you, and I'd love to see what you might have created using this idea. So be sure to post on social media using hashtag MixedMediaInspired. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss out on any of our future videos. Have a wonderful day and stay safe.